You don't even remember when it started. Not exactly. It wasn't one bad day, one failure, or one heartbreak. It was slower, like a shadow stretching across your life, inch by inch. At first, it was just a heaviness, a silence that settled between your thoughts. Then, it grew louder. The things that once made you feel alive now seemed distant, like echoes of a life you barely recognize. You kept going. You smiled. You nodded. You showed up. But inside, it felt like you were fading away. You called it depression. Everyone does. But what if you're wrong? What if this feeling isn't the end of you, but the beginning of something deeper? Something that's been waiting beneath the surface all along? Carl Jung spent 6 years of his life descending into this exact kind of darkness. But he didn't call it a breakdown. He called it a journey into the self, a confrontation with everything he had repressed, ignored, and buried. Out of that descent came his most mysterious and sacred work, the Red Book, a book filled with symbols, visions, and conversations with the parts of himself he had long forgotten. A book he kept hidden for years because he knew the world wasn't ready for it, because it wasn't just a book, it was a map, a guide for those brave enough to walk into the shadows of their own soul. You are not depressed, you are awakening. I'm not talking about spiritual fluff. I'm talking about raw, unfiltered psychological truth. Right now, you feel lost. Your passions feel dead. You wake up tired. You don't care about your goals. People ask you what's wrong and you have no answer. You cry alone and fake strength in public. But here's the truth uncovered in Jung's descent. Depression isn't always a malfunction. Sometimes, it's the soul retreating from a life that no longer feels real. You're not broken. You're being called inward, pulled into the depths of your own unconscious mind. And like Jung, you're meant to walk through this darkness, not to escape it, but to be transformed by it. The Red Book wasn't just a diary, it was a journey. Jung called it his confrontation with the unconscious. He saw visions, he heard voices, he met figures inside his own mind that shattered everything he thought he knew about himself. What he found wasn't madness, it was truth. So, let me ask you a question. What if the reason you feel numb is because your current self has run out of things to say? What if your depression isn't a chemical imbalance, but a soul imbalance? What if the life you've been living, the roles, the routines, the expectations, was never truly yours? What if the mask you've been wearing is rotting, and your soul is refusing to play along anymore? This isn't dysfunction. This is rebellion, a spiritual mutiny. Carl Jung said something that should hit you right in the chest. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But not you. If you're still here, listening to this, it means you're different. You're not running. You're waking up. The pain you feel isn't random. It's a message. Your depression is speaking to you, not just about your past, but about the illusions you've been living, the roles you've been playing, the lies you've been telling yourself just to fit in. Imagine this. You're in a house. Every room is filled with noise, people, and distractions. You've played your part. You've smiled when you didn't feel like it. You've listened when you were barely holding on. But now, you've stepped into the basement. The light is dim, the air is cold, and you're alone. This is where most people panic. They run back upstairs to the noise, to the distractions, to anything that keeps them from facing the silence. But not you. You stay. You sit in the darkness. And after a while, you hear whispers, not from outside, but from deep within. And one of those whispers says, "I've been waiting for you." That voice, that's your real self. The one you abandoned to survive. The one who never wanted to be perfect. Just real. The Red Book was Jung's way of staying in that basement. He didn't run. He sat in the dark. He listened to the whispers. He faced the chaos, the confusion, the monsters lurking in his mind. And instead of finding insanity, he found truth. And now, so can you. This is where I'm going to take you, on a journey inward, not to fix you, not to make you normal again, but to help you listen, to show you that what you're feeling isn't the end of something. It's the beginning. Are you ready? Because if you are, I promise you, you won't come back the same. And that's the point. Now, imagine you didn't run back upstairs. Imagine you stayed. You sat with the silence. You embraced the cold. What you'd find is the truth that has been whispering to you all along. The parts of you that you've hidden, that you've ignored, that you've buried beneath expectations and obligations. They start to come alive. This is where it gets uncomfortable. The mask you've been wearing starts to crack. The roles you've been playing, perfect, strong, unbreakable, they start to fall away. And it's terrifying because now you're exposed. Now there's nothing to hide behind. But this is where true transformation begins, not by running from the darkness, but by stepping into it fully. You start to ask questions you were too afraid to ask. Who am I beneath the roles? What do I want if no one else is watching? Who am I trying to impress, and why? When you strip away the expectations, the noise, the roles, what remains? What's left when there's no one to perform for, nothing to achieve, and nowhere to hide? That's when you meet the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. And it's not perfect. It's raw. It's messy. But it's real. This is where the journey truly begins. You start to shed the layers of who you thought you were, the lies you told yourself to fit in, the masks you wore to feel accepted. It all begins to fall away, and what's left is pure. What's left is true. What's left is you. And that's just the beginning of rebirth, because after everything falls apart, something new emerges from the ashes, something stronger, something unbreakable, and it's you, the real you, untouched by illusion, finally free. And that freedom, that's the beginning of everything you were meant to become. The story isn't over. It's just beginning. Because now you step forward, not to be understood, but to be real, to speak your truth, to live your purpose, to stop pretending and start living. This is your awakening. And now the real journey begins.